What is going on YouTube? DoubleO here, and I just came back from seeing Thunderbolts.
We can't stop him alone. No one can. But we can find a way. Together.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts.
This is my Thunderbolts spoiler-free and spoilers review. I know the title says spoiler-free, but you know I had to click on it. So we're going to do spoiler-free, and then at the end half of the review is going to be spoilers and all my thoughts on that. So I'll let you know when that happens, when I'm going to spoil it, and I'll cut it right down the middle, do a little transition, and you'll know when to click away if you haven't seen the film yet and you don't want to be spoiled and you're curious about it. So did Thunderbolts live up to the no hype? Because there was a little bit of hype, but yeah, so my overall thoughts on Thunderbolts, I think it was okay. It was pretty good. There's a lot of people saying, is Marvel back? Is Marvel come back in the game with this movie? And no. This film still has a lot of the same issues that a lot of other Marvel films has had since the end of Endgame, and even before Endgame, to be honest, even before the end of Phase 3. Marvel humor is nice when it's quirky and it kind of complements the story, kind of, and I just think the silly humor just didn't suit here. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, it kind of works, even though they didn't really need it, but it's James Gunn's style and he's good at it, so it works. Thor Ragnarok, the humor, Taika Waititi's style, it kind of worked because the action scenes were good, and I don't know, it just worked for Thor Ragnarok and the Guardians franchise, you know. But the humor just didn't work for me in Thunderbolts. I mean, you got a bunch of reject Captain Americas, and you're trying to do the humor thing. I think it would have been better if they just went more the Winter Soldier route with this film, where if you watch the Winter Soldier, considered one of the best, if not the best MCU movie by a lot of people, that tone was just perfect. The humor was very situational and realistic humor, if that makes any sense. Whereas this humor just kind of takes you out of it. It still has that same issue where a lot of the serious scenes, and there were some serious scenes in this film, don't have the weight that they should have because of the previous humor and the silliness and just the not taking it seriously aspect of it. Some of the humor works. There's some moments in it where characters like John Walker, US agent, is talking to maybe Ghost, you know, and they're having a conversation and it feels kind of organic. It's kind of silly. They're having a silly conversation about just how we would talk to each other, but it's kind of relatable and it kind of works, you know. And if it just had little bits of that where it's kind of funny, them talking about that in the background, that should be the humor in itself. Just the fact that these larger than life characters are having a very human, silly, unrelated to the plot conversation, and then that's just spreading like far few and in between the story. That should be the most humor you're getting, and that would work for me, you know. But yeah, so the humor in this frustrates me even more than things like maybe Love and Thunder and things like that, because there was actually a great story here. There was actually a lot of potential here, and in fact, I enjoyed the movie because the story was really well done. It was something a little bit different, and the way that it ended and the way the themes that they had, themes of depression and mental health and all this kind of stuff interwoven in this story about a bunch of reject Captain America characters who were kind of bad to evil to just criminals with dark backstories, and then they have to come together and work together to figure out this political governmental plot that's against them and bringing out this new superpowered hero. And there's a lot of good storytelling here, and a lot of the fact that it delves into depression and mental health with all that going on was really well done and something different, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. I think all the actors did a decent job. Florence Pugh was more like the lead in this, even though I felt like maybe it should be Bucky, but they wanted to go with Florence Pugh's character probably because she has a very similar, I'm trying to say this without spoiling it, she has a very similar connection to what I would say is one of the main villains in terms of the their backstory, so I guess that's why we're following Florence Pugh's character. But yeah, like I was really worried when I sat down. I just kind of went to watch this film with my friends just randomly. I wasn't desperate to do this review at all. I just thought, well, we're out, why don't we just go see Thunderbolts and I can do a review about it, you know? But so when I sat down, I was like, oh, am I going to regret this? Because I don't really care for the MCU anymore. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that we just decided to go out today, I would never have probably seen this and I won't be doing this review. So I was sitting there like, we open with Elena, and she's monologuing but also beating up. They're doing that thing with a female character beats up a bunch of men twice her size in the hallway. And yeah, we saw Black Widow do it in Iron Man 2 and we were okay with it. But I don't know, there's something about where we keep seeing it over and over again. It just gets to the point of eye rolling. I'm pretty sure Yelena doesn't have super soldier serum like the other characters do. She's literally like a Black Widow, and there's something it just doesn't feel as convincing. I don't know, maybe it was just Scarlett Johansson was just better at it, but it's just not convincing. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so I was really bored. I was like, this film is I didn't care about anything she was talking about, but then it got to the other characters. It got to the bit where the characters were coming together, and I was like, oh, this is getting interesting. Oh, the plot is opening up. Oh, I like this Bob character. What's he about? Oh, I like the dynamic here. Like, I like how they have to try and escape from this place, and it was really starting to intrigue me. I was like, okay, I'm liking this. But then every time I was getting into it, the humor just has to come in and just remind you, hey guys, don't forget this is a Marvel movie. We've got a joke. We've got to throw them jokes at you. And I know there are a lot of reviewers out there are saying, oh, the jokes it's doing the typical Marvel thing, but it's not that bad. The jokes don't take you out of it. No, they take you out of it. The reason why, maybe you disagree watching this review, whoever you are, but the reason why the jokes take me out of it is because I can see the potential for something darker, something more gripping, something more badass and epic, like Winter Soldier. Something like, if you watch a movie like the Mission Impossible movies, for example, with Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt, you can just feel that intensity, and it just feels like the stakes are real, and there's still humor here and there. You got the humorous characters, that classic feeling of I don't know what it is. I don't know why Marvel always goes over the top with it compared to other films, but it's just too much. Like the humor should be the level of something like Mission Impossible or Top Gun or Winter Soldier or their own film. You know, just films in phase 1 to 2 before the weddinisms came in, you know? So, yeah, the humor took me out of it a lot. But still, because of what they did with the story, their potential, some of the action scenes were really good, especially with a certain character in Avengers Tower. That was probably my favorite scene. There was really good moments in this film. And I kind of low-key enjoyed it more than Captain America Brave New World. Captain America Brave New World, I know a lot of people hate on that film, but if you watch my review, I actually enjoyed it simply because there was not that much humor in it at all. It was taken very seriously. I know they were trying to do Winter Soldier light, and that's why. And that's the only reason why I kind of liked Brave New World. So Thunderbolts did feel kind of better, I think, because the story was better. The story was more focused. The story was more locked in, you know, as they say. Whereas Brave New World, the story was kind of overcomplicated and it was just kind of a bit messy. But the tone of Brave New World's tone, or Winter Soldier's tone, with this story would have just been chef's kiss for me, you know, because the tone of Brave New World was good. But even though people complained about the new Falcon's jokes, it wasn't that bad. Like, see, the Red Guardian was the comic relief in this movie because everybody else was trying to be funny. Like, Yelena had to be funny with her sarcasm. The arguments had to be kind of silly arguments, not real arguments, not intense arguments. Could you imagine if the arguments were just super intense and you kind of feel it, you almost feel a little bit awkward because it's so intense, and like, but instead they're just kind of bickering like idiots, like they just look like bumbling idiots bickering, and it just kind of takes you out of it a bit. Yeah, so everyone's kind of funny. So when Red Guardian, because he's the comic relief, he's over the top funny to the point where it's unbearable. And I know a lot of people seem to like him or whatever, but it's just not for me, man. So that really brings it down. It keeps it in that same category of MCU slop. Even though this story was there, it's like there was gold underneath this, but there's so much of that MCU slop on top of it that just not letting it shine, not letting the gold shine through. And yeah, that was my general feelings of this film. For the non-spoiler people, I'll rate this film about a 5.5 out of 10. Maybe a 6. 6 is better because it's just above like mediocre, because of the story was there, but the humor and the tone brings it down again. Bucky had badass scenes. John Walker was especially good at this. I really enjoyed him. Yelena, even though she was the main character, I don't know, man. She's all right, but I couldn't get into emotional scenes because of how jokey it was here and there and how silly it is. I was zoning out during some of the more emotional moments because I just feel like they didn't deserve it from all the other jokey stuff they did. But that's my overall non-spoiler review, and we'll be going into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Spoilers.
Elena, being a hero, there is no higher calling.
No one can. But we can find a way. Together.
All right. Welcome to the spoiler review section of this. So you've got Valentina, who was working on a new superhero. She's trying to bring back the Avengers. She's trying to make her own Avengers, and they're working on a superhero where they can have Avengers all in one, and that was Sentry. No really explanation on why he's so powerful or what they did to make him this powerful, because he's ridiculously powerful. And if he's anything like the comics, and I don't know too much about Sentry in the comics, but if he's anything like that, from what I've heard, he's like basically Superman levels of strength, Superman. Like, he's probably one of the strongest MCU characters. He's one of the characters that fought not Hulk, World Breaker Hulk into a standstill, Yeah, he's super powerful, and they definitely showed his power and his abilities in this film. Like, there was a point where there's no way in hell any of these heroes can believably beat him in any kind of fight, which is understandable with where they took the story with the whole depression thing and the mental illness aspect. And I liked how they did that, and they set it up well to the point where you can't call it a cop-out at the end, because you see how Bob is right near the start of the film. He's very awkward. He's not bad, but he's not a good person, but he's not a bad person. He's had a tough life. You can see that he doesn't really care about living. He has these very emotional moments with Yelena at the start of the film, and they did that pretty well to set up for what happens at the end, where he becomes the Void, where he mentions to Yelena earlier in the film about how he can get into this depression that's like a void, and that character kind of manifests into itself when he gets these powers, and they all kind of have to stop that version of him. And I thought that was really done well when they go into the void and they have to fight him. Now, Sentry's powers aren't really well explained. I don't understand where they actually were. Were they in his head? Was he in their head? Like, where was the other people that were in the void that he disappeared? I don't know, but the concept was cool. I guess you just got to buy it the way you see it and not worry about the details too much. I did think it was badass how he was disappearing everyone. I was like, oh shit. I mean, it's Marvel. They can't show him disintegrating people like it's The Boys or Invincible or something, especially since it's not a cartoon. So I guess this cool little black void that's taking everyone out is pretty good way of depicting that. But no, they weren't dying. They were just disappearing in this world. Marvel can't go that dark, and they can't let this guy just be killing people, and because he's meant to be a hero. I don't really understand Sentry. You guys explain Sentry to me in the comics, because I don't know too much about him. All I know is that he fought World Breaker Hulk into a standstill. I think he's meant to be a good guy, so it's a bit weird that if he murders people, so it's good that he was just sending them to the void or whatever. And I thought it was pretty good. I liked the emotional connection. I like the way they defeated him. It's very similar. There's 2 Marvel films that's come out back to back now where they've literally done talk no jutsu to the main villain. This one made a bit more sense than the Captain America Brave New World, where Falcon just magically talks down the Red Hulk. Spoiler alert for that film. But in this one makes more sense because they built up to it. They set it up at the beginning. It made sense because of Yelena's connection and all that. It was great stuff they did here, and I liked what they did. Again, like I was saying in the non-spoiler section, the humor really let this down, and there was a certain part where Yelena was crying, and Red Guardian was even to the point where even Red Guardian was like, all right, calm down, man. But that's not the way he said calm down wasn't like he's tired of listening to her. It was like he just wanted her to not be upset. But I read it like, calm down, man, it's talking too much shit that I don't care about, because that's how I felt. And yeah, that sounds cold or horrible or mean, but I just did not give a fuck about her crying about her past, because first of all, her past in Black Widow was so long ago. I watched that movie once, so I've kind of forgotten a lot of it. Secondly, and more importantly, you've been joking around and doing all this silly stuff in this film here and there, that when you're trying to be serious, I just don't care for it, you know? There's the stakes don't feel high. I feel like I'm just watching a Marvel movie, and we're just supposed to enjoy the fact that it's a Marvel movie, and then you just forget about it when you get home. There's no intensity. There's no... you got to take this shit seriously. You got to care about these characters, because, you know, I just can't get into it when they joke around like that. We've already seen what movies like this can feel like when they take it seriously. That's Mission Impossible movies. If it just had that tone, I think the tone was just really off. So if we talk about the characters more in depth, I liked how Sentry was looking into all their backstories when he touches them. That was a good little mechanic. I don't know if Sentry has them powers in the comics. Let me know if that's true. If that's true, then that's a clever way of using them. If it's just not true, it's a little bit cheap just to give him them powers so you can have the backstory. But it was a good little technique to help people get into the characters and care about the characters a bit more. And I liked that. I liked Yelena's one. I liked... did Ghost have one? I don't think Ghost even had one. I don't think she wasn't that important, I guess. I liked John Walker's one, was good. I really like John Walker, because I liked seeing John Walker's backstory with the baby and all that, because he seemed a lot angrier in this and a lot more arseholey than I remember him being in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I know he was supposed to be a dickhead in that, but he ended up being my favourite character in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because he was the only one that had flaws, and he was the only one taking shit seriously, and he was the only one that felt real. And in this is somewhat similar, though he's a bit more arseholey in this. It's almost like they saw how he was in Falcon and Winter Soldier and said, we need to make him more unlikable if we can. But he's still kind of likable in a way, because he feels like not a realistic version of Captain America, but just more kind of gritty, relatable, mean Captain America that is kind of fun to watch in a way. Not a candle to Steve Rogers or Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, but it's still something cool about John Walker. And I like that he's this little dark, rejected US agent Captain America with his little red and black shield. I like all that. And Taskmaster, I don't know, the director clearly doesn't like Taskmaster, or someone doesn't like her, because they shot her in the head quick in this film. Maybe they were listening to the fans and how people were pissed about how they gender swapped Taskmaster. Rightfully so. Get rid of her. She sucked, because Taskmaster's a badass character. Maybe they can bring the proper male Taskmaster in. And I know what some of you might be thinking, oh, why do you care what gender Taskmaster is? Because that's what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be this male character. That's badass. I know Ghost is male in the comics, but Ghost isn't as... I don't think Ghost is as interesting as Taskmaster, but Ghost is just kind of there, you know? The chick that played Ghost in the movie can make Ghost her own thing. Taskmaster's a kind of a much cooler character that's a little bit more prominent in the comics. So I feel like it deserves to be done right, you know? So I'm glad they got rid of Taskmaster, because no one liked that version of Taskmaster that had no personality, and she just gender swapped it for no reason. I don't know why he did that. In Ghost, she was a lot better in this than I remember her being in Ant-Man 2. I don't even remember that she was an Ant-Man 2 villain. Someone else had to tell me that, because I've forgotten. But yeah, I remember that she was in it, and she just was not interesting whatsoever. But she was kind of cool in this. Like, she was kind of likable, and she had a character arc, and she just felt like a real person more in this film. Probably because she's not just there to just be a villain. Valentina was really good, actually, and sometimes I'm tired of all these, like, trying to make all these female characters in these big roles where they just don't feel intimidating enough. But she was great. She was like, she felt believable. She felt like that kind of, I don't know who to compare her to, but that kind of Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton kind of vibe. But she's just this evil politician, and she manipulates people, and it was really believable and cool. There was this one moment where it looked like she kind of beat up some guy because she didn't want him to accidentally kill Sentry or whatever. And that bit was like, oh, okay, that she's a badass too. All right, she beat everyone up too. Okay, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, I can believe that when Valentina's younger years, maybe she was a bit more of like a Black Widow. I can't remember how she was in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I think was she in another film? I can't. Maybe she was in the Hawkeye TV show with Haley Steinfeld and Yelena or something. I don't know. But yeah, but she was cool. I liked how much of a dick of a bitch she was in this, and seeing her little backstory was kind of helped to flesh her out just a little bit, because you can't do too much with these ensemble casts in such a short time. So it was kind of cool having that. I liked how she thought she could control Sentry, but she couldn't. That was really cool. And I liked how they kind of make her this kind of dark Nick Fury sort of thing going on. So now she's with the New Avengers, and she's created the New Avengers, and we're going to talk about that as well. Yeah, like Thunderbolts, I did enjoy a lot of parts about it, but overall, I think it was let down heavily with the just over-the-top humor, man. It's too much. I don't mind characters talking like real people, talking about getting an Uber, or talking about silly movies they watched, or silly things that they did in their past, but they should cut it down and wrap it up, because sometimes the silly conversations go on, and it really takes you out. Like Red Guardian playing Pony, my pony, your honey, ride it, my pony, playing that in his car. That would be more funny if it was taken so much more serious. Like if it was taken really seriously, they had intense moments instead of silly arguments, and Red Guardian wasn't so silly. If he accidentally pressed that because he's a cab driver, and they actually established that a bit more, that he's just an Uber driver or whatever, or limo driver, and then he presses that, oh shit, sorry, that could be like a funny joke because it'll catch you off guard. But because there's so much humor they're throwing at you all the time, it just kind of makes you go, ugh. Yeah. Oh, speaking of, I didn't even talk about Bucky. Bucky was great in this, coming in like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2 on the motorbike. That was a really cool scene. I love how quick he stopped them when Valentina's people were taking forever to stop them. That was funny to me. And the way he just wrapped his hand around that thing with his like Wakanda arm, just flipped the whole truck. That was a badass moment. I was just thinking to myself, they should have made this brother Captain America, man. And before anyone gets on my neck about it, it's not because I need a white one. It's not because I hate Sam or anything like that. I just think Sam's already got his own identity as the Falcon. He didn't need to drop an identity to get someone's seconds, whereas Bucky needed a redemption arc, and that would have been a great redemption arc story for him to be a Captain America, and only temporarily. You'd have to drop it and give it back to Steve, or just get rid of Captain America concept altogether. But just a great story about a redemption for Bucky, and just seeing him do some cool shit as a Captain America, and that would have been it. Whereas Falcon doesn't need that, there could be much better things for Falcon to do, Anyway, that made me just wish we got a Bucky Captain America. This story is more focused on Yelena, but it's clear Bucky's the leader. Maybe this story should have been focused on Bucky, but I get it that you had to make Yelena the main character, but I couldn't get into it, not because she's a woman, not because they do that silly thing where she takes out a whole wave of men without any super soldier serum or anything like that, but because she's just too like sarcastic, and the accent, and I don't know, there's just the way she talks just doesn't let me get into her story. I just feel like she's almost like a joke character in some weird way. She doesn't feel real. Not the same way like Scarlett Johansson played the Black Widow, the proper Black Widow, But yeah, let's talk about that epic fight scene with Sentry. I loved the way they played that off. He was kind of awkward, kind of discovering his powers as he was fighting them, and it just showed how dominant he was taking them out. And I was like, yeah, this is the Sentry I've heard about in the comics, taking them out easy. And I like the idea that they've built him up to be like he kind of likes them, so he didn't want to hurt them because he could just snap them up in half in 2 seconds flat. So that was really cool. I liked how there's a little bit of a god complex with Bob/Sentry, where he was like, I'm a god, like I don't need to, why do I need to listen to this? He's a bit arrogant in places, and I like that flaw in his character. I don't know if that's how he's characterized in the comics, but if he is, they did a great job here, man. And I don't mind if there's a change, because he's not that big of a character in the comics, so I don't mind that there's a slight change in his personality. Maybe they do that all the time in these films in a way that it still kind of works. So yeah, I love that. Favorite scene in the whole film, the fight in Avengers Tower. Again, the after credits scene was trash, with Red Guardian jokey thing. But again, if that after credit scene's happening in a movie where it's more serious, it would be more funny. But because everything is always funny, it's just exhausting at that point. The other end credit scene, I don't stay for end credit scenes anymore because I don't care. I can't sit there for ages. I just want to get out there at this point because I don't care about these films like that, like I used to. But I watched it on YouTube, and it's it's the Fantastic Four hints. They all look kind of different. So is that how they're going to look in a Fantastic Four movie or Doomsday or something? I don't know. But they all look quite different. They must be in something where, because it doesn't even look like that they just dressed them up for that scene. It looks like they literally grabbed the scene from a different movie and put it in there to tease, which is kind of cool. So yeah, it really does look like they're doing something else is going on there. So yeah, Fantastic Four obviously is coming in from their universe. Spoiler alert, they must lose to Galactus, but maybe not. We don't know. We'll see. So yeah, that's pretty much my review. I overall enjoyed it. But I just feel like it was let down by the humor. Too much of that MCU humor, and they really need to get rid of it. Just take this shit serious, man. I've seen some people talk about this film where they mention things like, oh, they mentioned meth. Oh, I didn't think the MCU would get this dark, talking about depression. Oh, a lot of moments were dark in this. Oh, Yelena's backstory was dark. I was like, this ain't dark, man. Like, it's not dark when you have to make a joke 5 minutes later, you know? Like, it could have been a lot darker if they took it all seriously and people were actually seemed sad in this film, or scared or worried or, you know, intense or hateful or, you know? Yeah. Anyway, was there one more thing I wanted to say before I end this video? The fact that they're new Avengers, like, why would you make these guys the Avengers? They're all the Captain America. They all have one power set, but I guess if you've got Sentry there to be the powerhouse, do you even need them? But I guess Valentine wants to keep them happy because they've got too much shit on her. But yeah, anyway, that's my review of the Thunderbolts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you love this movie? Did you hate it? Is the MCU back, as some people are saying? I think it had a lot of potential, but the humor let it down once again, and MCU needs to get more serious. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.